All right. Let's get going, man. Episode 3. I think you can
Market.
Pickers Market. Yeah, we do have a title, don't we?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't forget that part.
Awesome. We kind of figured that out. Episode 3 of the Pickers Market. I'm Jeremy Bryan, Tyler Ellegard over there, and we got a surprise over here. You know, we're dual cameraing in it here today. Got Gangl in the house. Keith, how you doing, man?
Not bad. Glad to be here. Oh, I love that. Way to go, Tyler.
Oh, that never stops.
No.
So for those at home, Tyler just found these buttons, so be prepared that you're never going to hear anything from us today. It's going to be just a random thing of sound effects. Gangl, so this is your first time joining us. What are you looking for here?
Oh, a lot of excitement. You know, words of wisdom. I want to hear a little bit about the market. I want to hear about this Pickers thing you guys have been talking about. So let's hear it. Let's get it going.
We're picking.
Trying to.
Yeah. Today, you know, hey, let's just do it. Today's live recording is on a day of Starbucks where we were picking that one too, and we were picking pretty terribly. Yeah, so that's awful.
That's a brutal name today. So
yeah. So, you know, for those recording, we actually saw Jim Cramer. I thought that was pretty interesting, huh? He kind of took him to task a little bit. Usually, you know, Jim's usually pretty CEO friendly. I would say he was not CEO friendly this morning.
No, he had the CEO on, which amazingly, he actually took him to the task. I mean, he was calling them out. It was pretty a brutal interview, really.
Yeah. Did not help the stock, clearly. All right, let's move on before I get even more angry. So we're gonna, you know, as we always do, we're gonna talk about a few topics today, and we're gonna start with the old hot button. I think it's the jobs report. You know, if you listen to us and if you ever heard us before, you know, we say that jobs are pretty darn important to, you know, to what the economy is going to do, and probably the thing we watch most, right, Tyler?
Yeah. I mean, you could argue inflation right now is just as important because it gives you a sense of what the Fed's going to do. But I think over longer periods of time, employment is much more important.
Yeah. You know, I mean, my general thought here is, if we have a job or if we think we can get a new job, chances are we're going to spend money, right? For sure. That's what what we do.
With the jobs report, you also get what wage growth was or average hourly earnings to see, are people making more than inflation? Are they making less? Are they getting actual raises? Are they not? That kind of thing too. So I think the overall report in of itself is a very important monthly metric to look at.
Yeah. Gangl, I got a hot take. I want you to chime in on this one. Boy. Here's my hot take. I think the Fed is overrated, and I think jobs reports are underrated. What's your opinion on that?
I actually agree with you. Yeah. I think the same thing. So I think if people are working, they have money. Consumers love to spend. They have money, they'll spend it. And so wage inflation is way more important. If you look at wage inflation, I think right now we're around 5.5%. So inflation and everybody's worried about is at 3.5%. So that delta, we're still at a positive 2%. I think that's a good thing. Now, if we back it up like a year and a half ago, when inflation was at 9.1%, you know, your wage inflation, the overall CPI was at, the CPI was at 9.1%, but the wage inflation was at like 3.5%. Yeah, that was a negative delta. So I think that's a bad situation. I think right now is unemployment below 4%. People got money, they'll spend it. We don't like spending on inflation, right? It would be better if it was at 2%. Yeah, but 3 is not terrible. 3.
Do you think people are adjusting to the 3%, especially because they're getting 4%?
I do. That's why I think as long as you have a positive delta, if you're making more than your actually inflation's going up. But people, I think one inflation number that sticks in your head is gas prices.
Yeah.
If you go to the pump and all of a sudden you used to pay, $2.50, $3
gas in the
a
grocery
gallon.
store.
Yeah, those two things. Yeah, those two things, because those are immediately, you see in your day-to-day bills, and especially you go on the lower income, that's a bigger part of their discretionary income. So that's why I think those parts of inflation are pretty brutal.
Well, I think it's funny, like eggs last year were the hot topic, and they, they skyrocketed to like $9 for a
crazy
dozen.
Yeah.
And it lasted for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But people noticed that
immediately. Yeah. You start messing with egg prices, and you're gonna have riots in the streets. They're not gonna be throwing eggs because they cost too much. They're not gonna be thrilled about it.
I mean, like, how often do you actually eat eggs?
Oh, I eat eggs constantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Same here. It must be an older person thing.
I mean, we'll have them maybe like on Saturday.
Oh, you're a Saturday egg person.
Yeah.
It's rare a day that I don't have an egg.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It is a
I
pretty.
guess I'm just not the norm then.
Even when they, even when they got, yeah. Even
I don't
when
eat
they
them daily.
Even when they got ridiculously expensive, I still thought they were actually a relatively decent deal, right? Like eggs, just in of themselves, like if you can have scrambled eggs, it's like and a piece of toast. It's a decent meal for about the cheapest thing that you can get, right?
So eggs start coming down from $9 and they're $8, and Jeremy's starting to just hoard up on them. He's like, I don't know if these are coming down
Oh
again.
no, I was hoarding my $3 eggs.
Yeah. He wasn't driving anywhere. He saved on his gas money so he could have the extra egg.
Yeah.
When they got to $9, I was looking for chickens. I was like, can I arbitrage this by just getting some chickens?
Chat GPT, how much does one chicken cost?
How many eggs? How often does a chicken produce an egg? Jeremy's running the math.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, a little feed, and all of a sudden I'm just pumping $9 eggs out. I'm happy with that.
You sound like more of a Gangl type right now, more of the country folk.
I know, right?
Oh, no, that's this whole argument again. Tyler's way more country than me.
That chicken would last probably about an hour and a half. I would not be able to take care of that animal. So we're all glad that I don't own a chicken. So just quick, going back to the jobs report, we got a little wacky there. I always say it's kind of, and Tyler kind of walk us through this, like, we pay attention to the trends, not just, what's the report. The report comes out on Friday, right? The absolute numbers will be there, but, just kind of think about, like, how do we think about the trend and overall, and why is that more important?
Well, it's more important because it gives you a sense of where things are going.
Yeah.
Right. The big report is this Friday, but even on a weekly basis, you get initial claims, you get continuing claims, and on a week, and that's weekly. So on a week to week basis, those numbers can fluctuate from 240,000 initial claims to 200,000 to 270 to 180, right? But is there a trend that you're starting to see? Is there more initial claims? Because if you have more initial claims of unemployment, means there's going to be more unemployment theoretically on the monthly data.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of get a sense of where it might be throughout the month. But then obviously everybody's watching the big report because that's the official one.
Yep.
So from a longer term perspective, it's better for us to understand where the overall trend of the economy, overall trend of jobs is going, versus just getting into the minutia of this report was bad.
Right.
Right. Because you're going to have, and the other thing is all these numbers will probably be revised next month. Right. So it's better to understand the overall trend and where things are going rather than getting caught up in, it missed expectations by 0.1, right? Like at the end of the day, over the next 2 years, is that 0.1 really going to matter? Maybe the market reacts to that.
Sure, on the day it's gonna, but yeah,
eventually it's going to care more about the overall trend because that's what the market is more concerned about, is things going forward.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you could have a bad report. We just had the inflation come out hotter than expected, but it's still not a terrible report because especially if next month it comes down again, the trend is still there.
Yeah.
Right. So if jobs, we saw the spike up to 3.9, last month we're back down to 3.8. We'll see where this comes in at. Expectation is 3.8. So if that trend continues of just a straight line, that's great.
Yep.
But if we start to see 3.9, 4, 4.1, that tells you that things are getting worse.
Yeah.
Right. So it's better for us to consider the trend versus one actual data point.
Yeah. Yeah. Gangl, we talk about this all the time about, the job growth versus the unemployment rate, right? Is that the unemployment rate is affected by just not more than just, jobs growing.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things that are in there, but can you walk us through like what job growth kind of means for, just the overall economy and stuff like that we talked about before? Just kind of why do we think that's so important?
We do, again, consumers drive, 2/3 of the overall economy, their spend. So 66% driven by consumers. And again, how they spend if they have a job, right? So if they have a job, that's a good thing. So unemployment right now is below 4%. We think that's almost full employment. I think it reached the lowest point was 3.4%, which is the lowest ever in the last 50 years. So we're bumping along the very low. So if you want a job, you can find a job. If you have a job, you'll spend money. We're a firm believer of that, which drives the economy, which companies continue to spend. They have CapEx. So again, it's a vicious circle here. So that's why job growth is important. We actually saw job numbers this morning. It was ADP number came out at, it was 192,000. So which is a little bit higher than expectations.
Yep.
So again, that points to strong job growth again, which we think will continue to carry the economy forward.
Yeah. Yeah. ADP number is always so weird though. Like, I mean, if you look for correlation, it's often not there. It's just I don't know which one's weird, right? It could be the U.S. government data is wrong or something or weird or something, but they just never seem to match.
Well,
never seem to match.
I think
perfectly.
the other important thing to Keith's point is there's also a stat of jobs outstanding. And right now, for the number of people unemployed, there's more jobs available, right? So I think at one point it was up to 2 jobs for every 1 person unemployed, right? I think the Fed is also trying to get that down. So to Keith's point, there's jobs available, right?
That's a JOLTS number.
Yeah, if you don't have a job, you can certainly go out and find one. Now there might be a skill mismatch on something, but nonetheless, there's still more jobs available than there are number of people unemployed. So I think that's an interesting thing to Keith's point.
Yeah, love that. And from our side too, we'd love to see it. Right? It disappoints the people who are expecting the Fed to save us. Right at the end of the day, but I think we can kind of save ourselves if our economy is resilient. To me, again, that's what makes the Fed overrated. Is that if we're still having jobs and we're still doing the things that we can do at these even interest rates, there's probably no real reason for them to make massive adjustments as a result, and we probably are going to be okay even if that's the case, right?
Yeah, in the short term, we're kind of investors wanted cuts. I think we're getting to the point where we don't need them. I think that's a camp you and I have been in. So I think that's actually ultimately a good thing longer term. Maybe a little bumpy here in the short term because of it.
I've been saying, I don't, especially severe cuts. Like I don't want that because that means the economy's going in the toilet. Who wants that, right?
Yeah, you go from 5 1/4 all the way down to 3 1/2.
Yeah. Gets real fast, right? It's because they see something that is not good ahead, right? That's why they're cutting fast.
Well, I think the other point that a lot of people miss is that now the Fed has ammo if we do have something severe happen.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're sitting at 2% Fed funds rate, the Fed can't really do much besides add to their balance sheet.
Right.
So now they've been running off their balance sheet. Now they've got Fed funds rate nice and high. So if anything does happen, they're able to actually come and help us.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. I don't know if it's the majority or minority opinion that I never want to see a zero interest rate environment again. We probably will.
Depends on what you're looking to do. If you're looking to buy a house,
Tyler would have liked zero.
I would have liked zero about a year ago, but I mean,
well, it's a very good point. It depends on who you are.
If you're a saver, if you're a saver, then it's great because now you're actually earning something. But if you're a spender, not so much fun.
Yeah. All right. I think that's enough about jobs now. Tyler ended us on a bummer.
Sorry, folks.
You got a wah Tyler, on that thing?
We'd have to test out some buttons.
Let's not hit all the buttons.
I'm not sure which one it is.
All right. Gangl, I need you to help me out on this one. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the stocks that you own. So let's talk about Apple. Because, in this segment is kind of you might not know about. And everybody kind of knows how big of a market cap Apple is, and they get a general sense of what it is. But can you just give us some indication on just the sheer size of that company?
Yeah, let's start with what the driver of Apple is. iPhones, right? That's about 55% of the overall revenue is driven from iPhones. Last year they sold like 232 million iPhones. Think about that. 232.
How many people in the United States, Tyler, have 300 million?
330, million? I think. So the other stat I have on that is in the US they've sold 160 million. 160 million people have iPhones in the US, which is about 60% market share. Think about that. So the population is about 330. So it's, obviously there's some young people in that population that probably can't have a phone yet, or maybe they're getting them at 5 and 6. But and usually, I think normally you're at least waiting until maybe age 10 or something.
The baby iPhone?
The baby iPhone, right? But I mean, 160 million. And then worldwide, I looked at the stats, is 1.6 billion. Think about that. 1.6 billion, right? There's I think it's roughly around 8 billion people in the world. So 1.6 billion people. They have 22% market share of the iPhones. I'm not sure, of the cell phone market. So that's pretty impressive when you start taking a step back and look at things.
Well, and you think about it too, those numbers this is not a cheap device, right? This is not the lowest cost device, right?
Average price last year, I think, was $875. I was just looking at that.
Yeah.
So a device.
I have a theory on that though. If Apple came out tomorrow and said, okay, we're doubling our phone price, does anybody blink?
Doubling?
I think
we got some. They'll just hold on to what they have.
Yeah.
Right. That I'll have mine for 5 years instead of 2 years.
Right.
But am I going to change to Google or Android as a result of that?
That's what I mean.
I don't know.
Because once you go Apple, you're kind of wrapped into the ecosystem. I think people underestimate that. to the point that you get concerned about iPhone sales, but at the end of the day, if you have an iPhone, you're probably not going to switch.
No, and then as a parent, and as Jeremy too, is once you get in that ecosystem, it's the whole family gets there.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not taking your iPhone from your kids and saying, "Oh, we're gonna go with some cheaper version."
Right,
here,
exactly.
Right? That just doesn't fly.
Go
And
back
then
to the flip phones.
yeah, then to your point, then you get into the service side of things. Once you get that, then the plan, and that's kind of the next driver for Apple, really, besides the iPhones.
Yeah, I mean, I've often said this before. If I lose my phone, it's not the worst thing in the world because I do back up, thankfully. But if I were to lose that ecosystem, I would be useless as a person at this point now. It's just the way it is. It's that you're absolutely right, Tyler. That ecosystem, even if it was a 20% increase, Jeremy probably doesn't do anything. I know I'm on the same schedule.
Yeah.
If it's a doubling, then I'm like, all right, this iPhone, whatever I have, 12, 13 might go to 19 before I think about even.
Well, because the reason I was thinking about this was, so my phone, I traded in my old one and I'm on Verizon, and I think I had to pay $200 for the new phone because I had the trade.
Verizon's not a sponsor yet, but
no.
Wow. Maybe they should.
I know, right?
But even my $200, they made me space that out over 3 years. I was like, what's the point of that?
I don't know.
But then when you think about putting 1,000 or 2,000 over 3 years, it's like $25 a month or $30 a month on your bill. I don't know if people really balk at that.
Yeah, honestly, they probably get more mad at like AT&T and Verizon, right?
Yeah.
Because they say, "Oh, my number's up." It's like your number's up because this device that you're holding is like, they have no pricing power, right? Because you'll walk across the street and you'll go to somebody else for that, but Apple sure does. But talking about that, Gangl, like, what in your opinion could we've seen dominance like this in the past, and we've seen it go away.
Yeah.
For old people like us, Kodak is
Kodak,
probably one of them. I know we can go in the Wayback Machine there, but even like BlackBerry, right?
Probably the most.
BlackBerry's probably better just because, it's been in the smartphone era. It was considered the de facto smartphone. I mean, if you were on Wall Street and didn't have a BlackBerry back in mid to late 2000s, you were behind the game. So, what could make Apple BlackBerry? Anything?
Yeah, it's something that I can't think of, but I think because of the service that we just talked about, all those different other fees besides your iPhone, which is about 22% of the overall revenues, and that's growing 10%. I don't see it becoming the BlackBerry. BlackBerry didn't have that, right? It was a device, right? There could be some device that we don't even, maybe it's, some other like tablet like thing, something that's not even a phone that we don't even consider now, that all of a sudden, you remember phones when we started, it's like no one had a phone, right? And then BlackBerry, if you worked in a corporation, you had a BlackBerry phone, but you didn't have a personal phone. And then all of a sudden people, Tyler, this was way before you, people had two phones. Do you remember having two phones? That was a real pain, right? It's just,
I had one each pocket had one. Each pocket had one.
Yeah, I don't see them going the line of Kodak or BlackBerry, but there certainly could be maybe some displacement. But I think they're trying to devent other, Vision Pro, things like that. They're trying to develop other areas to keep them relevant. And again, their service model is so recurring, and our dependency on it, guys like us aren't leaving them. So I don't think they'll become irrelevant like BlackBerry or Kodak.
Yeah, I don't know what causes that right now, but I guess maybe you never know.
I mean, you could slow growth, right? We talked about those numbers of how many iPhones are out there that you can't grow, right? You went from 232 million last year to, I think the expectation this year for 225. So you have slight deceleration there. So if you don't get the service growing and your MacBooks and your iPads and things like that growing, then maybe the stock becomes a little less important, but it's 2.7 trillion. Does it go 2.7 trillion, go to 1 trillion? I highly doubt it.
Okay. Yeah. No, Tyler, what do you think?
Do you think, just curious, do you think Apple being, I don't know if behind the curve is the right word, but just they haven't talked about AI as much as other companies have. Is that something that you think eventually could lead them to be like a BlackBerry, or do you think that they're just holding off on talking about it?
I think they're working on it. I think they're behind, but I think they're, again, if you have the device, just like now you're seeing, Google had a really good quarter. They're talking about it. Amazon really just reported fantastic quarter too, and they're talking about AI. I think Apple is one of those mega cap names that are certainly in the space. They have all the data. They will play catch up. Those be a different parts of their service, right? Since you have the device, maybe it's going to be an icon right on your phone. You just tap versus having to go somewhere else. And I think that will be significant for them. And at some point in time, they'll get there. They may even partner with someone, maybe it's Google or something like that.
I would see. Yeah, I think that's they're going to empty the pocketbook at some point. But Apple's to be completely honest, Apple's never been first through the door, right? They never are.
That's true.
What they tend to do is be better as a result, and they come out and I'm like, okay, you got that. That's cool. We're going to take that and be better. We're going to put our engineers on it. We'll do better on it. So I think from an AI perspective, they'll probably follow the same suit. Is they'll figure out how they can use it within their ecosystem and their model. But if they don't, that could be one of the bigger risks, is that if people start to say, whatever I'm using it for, whatever that use case may be, again, Google searching, going to AI type of structures and those kinds of things, if Apple's not there and not partnering and not doing the things they're going to do, then that could be, that could definitely be a catalyst for them to be significantly smaller in the future.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that is I saw a video for this new AI company. It's called, I think they call them Humane, but they're creating this AI pin. And it's basically a phone that you just pin on, and then you can tap it and talk to it and tell it to do things. And it's literally takes the phone out of your pocket.
Gotcha. Don't you feel weird? Like because if I go on walks or something, sometimes I'll use my AirPods to like tell the music to stop or something like that. I just feel like
that is true.
I feel like such a dork.
Or people like talking to their watches.
Yeah,
that one always gets me.
Yeah, it's very, very.
I still can't figure out how to use that, so I don't even bother.
Gangl, it doesn't flip.
No,
just know that.
The AirPods, I call them earbuds.
Earbuds.
And if I'm ever looking for my AirPods at home, I tell the kids or my wife, it's like, oh, you guys see my earbuds? They just basically shake their head in disdain and turn around and don't even answer me.
And on that note, we'll move on. So I want to transition to a little bit of our wait what. And for those of you who don't know, wait what is just something that it's like, really? We're still talking about this, or is this a thing? Tyler, do people still say or do the quote unquote sell in May and go away?
I mean, you always hear about it.
Yeah.
But I think you still get people that start to take their summer vacations, obviously. So I think the overall volume is probably down.
Thinner. Yeah.
But I don't like if you're an active manager at this point, you can't.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of opportunities going on, especially if there's thin volume. Like a stock could be down 5% in a month and you have no idea why.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's great opportunities, but I don't think, selling your entire portfolio and coming back in the fall is the right answer.
No.
Yeah. Gangl, we've been doing this way. We've been doing it a long time, right? Did you ever sell in May and go away?
Absolutely not. I heard a couple different places, and I never heard anybody say, yep, I'm done.
I think our employers would say you could stay away forever now if you sell in May and go away.
We'll just cut your salary in half if you want to work from October to March.
So I got a couple of stats on this because I'm a dork and I like to have stats around it. So the weakest months are from June to October. The weakest months on average is during that time. So there's a theory of, it's the weakest months. Why won't I avoid those to then get in on the good months? Problem with that theory is weakest doesn't mean down. And so even during June and October, the average market is up. I think it's a little over 1% on an average basis during those summer months. And in a market where it's up 8 to 10% on average, that's a decent chunk of your return. And by the way, selling that out to then give up, to get the rest doesn't seem like the greatest of all strategies, right? So it's often, I always find that, these adages, they're interesting to say, they're fun to have, to talk about. And I got this, old philosophy here. They rarely stand up to data testing. And if I think this one is a poster child for that, is that if you actually, nobody in the professional practice that I know has ever done it. Secondarily, doing it leaves you on average probably with less return over longer periods of time. And I can actually reflect that as our last 20 years. If you sold in May and gone away, you get 5.6 average returns. If you don't, you get 7.6. That's over the last 20 years.
Where do you think that came from then?
I think it's an old trader. I do.
Yeah.
So it's part of it was, they're all going on vacation anyway, right? We don't do anything in summer. We go out and we're spending on the boats and that kind of stuff. And it's an old, probably New York Stock Exchange kind of.
Yeah, it was an old broker thing. I was looking at it. It's like, I think they wanted to go on vacation. They kind of say sell in May and go away. It's like made themselves feel better that while they're on the beach is like,
Yeah.
Nothing's happening in the market anyway.
Yeah.
Why would we need to be there?
It's all going down. Yeah, these are tough months anyway. Let's just all sell in May and go away. Yeah, I think and it might have been a function of the commission world is there's nobody to call and talk to at the other end of that line.
Sure.
So I'll just sell in May and go away. Then so.
I forgot that you used to have to call a broker to buy something.
Wow.
Oh well, yeah. He's hitting his little button, his
AI
little button pin phone and talking. We are going to so regret letting him find those buttons.
He'll be in the chair next week in a different spot.
Yeah.
Yes,
Jeremy's
exactly.
doing switch spots.
So we can we're all firmly in agreement that sell in May and go away is a wait what and probably not something we should be doing, right?
Absolutely not.
No.
Good. All right. Last thing I want to talk about, and we're going to pivot here. We're going to get out of finance and we're going to have some fun with this because I call this the double. It's going to be a little bit of spaghetti wall, but it's also going to be a little bit of older versus younger over here. We got two old people on the camera against one young, and I want to talk about.
We already had one young versus old.
I know.
Now we even got an older one.
I want to talk about rock bands, Tyler, and I want to talk about why your generation doesn't have any.
Well, I mean, growing up, I did. Well, we had the boy band.
The boy band
We
does
had-
not count.
Yeah.
Okay,
Come
We
on.
had
Gangl,
the-
who are we talking about when we talk about rock band?
How
Yes,
about,
I
like-
know the Eagles.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Motley
my
Crue.
God.
How about Motley Crue?
Yeah.
Little Def Leppard.
Yeah.
right? Stuff like that.
Okay, so there's
You
your
don't even-
80s.
You don't consider the Eagles to be a rock band?
They would be a country band now. Like, think about their
Yeah.
songs. They would be a country
I
band.
guess.
That would
Light
be a
rock.
Had some tang to them.
Yeah,
If-
exactly.
AC/DC, if you're going back into
Okay.
that
Yes,
same
there
time
you go.
frame.
Led Zeppelin,
Zeppelin.
during that time
Okay.
frame, right?
Not
That-
that
we're talking actual people who will crank a stadium, right?
Okay.
Eagles
Yeah,
aren't cranking the stadium.
He's referring to the boy band era. So that's why
Yeah,
I
that's
throw
where
that
he's.
in
Oh,
there.
yeah, he really started off on a tough tangent
Oh,
there.
God.
So, okay, so your era, you hit great on your era, right?
Yeah.
Crew, Def
Yeah, that
Leppard,
was
those kinds
right
of
in my
things.
wheelhouse.
Mine was, the Metallica era, and even kind of led into the grungy kind of things, right? What is yours? Who in post, let's say, so it's kind of 15 to 20, right? That's kind of, I think, the age group of where you kind of your generation. So what does that put you for years?
Like
15 to 20. Yeah, age 15 to 20.
So that would have been 2010 to 2016-ish.
Okay. Give me a rock band out of that group that's going to make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I don't think they had music in those 5, 10, 15 years, did they? They stopped playing them?
I stopped listening about 2005. I don't think I've found a new one since.
I was never a rock kind of guy. Like
Okay.
if we
Even in the hockey?
So for like hockey, it was always the old school, like AC. Like if you wanted to pump rock, you were listening to AC/DC
See?
in the locker room.
This is my whole point, is that your generation, for lack of a better term, used our music.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But so like the music that I would normally listen to would be like hip hop, rap.
Got
that
it.
was,
Okay.
That's what
That's
has
but not like
displaced.
the early 2000s, late 90s rap.
Yeah.
Like not really the Biggie and Tupac's
Right.
kind of rap. It was more the, call it new age rap,
I got you.
if you will. More hip hoppy than rap, I guess.
Yeah.
That was kind of my go-to.
Got it. Got
Nice.
it. Gangl, why can't we create any new rock bands anymore? Why have they gone away from it?
I don't
Because
know.
if you look at just stadium attendance and things like that, like who is clearing out, like, we have in Minnesota here, we have US Bank Stadium, we got Target Field. Look who's putting those shows on. It's people look at Metallica. Metallica's in like their mid to late 50s.
But I think that's just the nostalgia factor.
right. It's the
Yep.
nostalgia.
So
tour.
I don't know if I mean, there are some rock bands that are out there,
Yeah.
but people just don't want to listen to rock.
Yeah, I think there's been a shift from rock to country
Yeah.
as a whole, and then there's other. Like
And
you said,
country is actually, some of the country artists are more rocky country,
Okay.
I would say.
more poppy-ish.
Yeah.
So
versus-
so the generation under mine, so sub 40, just doesn't listen to rock music anymore, or they only listen to our stuff. Is
Yeah.
that fair to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, it's all old school nostalgia rock.
Tyler goes just pure garbage that people are listening to.
So I wanted to talk about this because it's a tangent on. It's not rock at all, so don't get me wrong here. But Taylor Swift 2023, I looked this up. She did over $1 billion gross in tour sales. The next one was 579 million, which would be probably excellent in under any other year. That's Beyonce.
Fantastic.
And then the only rock artist in the top 10 for 2023 on this site that I looked, I can't verify this. I didn't go look at the tickets myself. Bruce Springsteen, who is what, 75 years old? Yeah. But I got to say, I've been to a Springsteen concert. That dude still brings it. Like 3 hours. Like, I think I used the bathroom 3 times and he was just still rocking out.
Like, he has so many good songs though.
Yeah.
And I think because he brings it, like E Street, like he'll bring the full band, just rock out. And like, we used to have Palladia at my parents' house. It was like a concert channel.
Oh,
wow. And is that before Spotify?
Our era went to
no, I know, but
we didn't watch them on TV.
They always had Springsteen on there, and my dad and I would sit and watch it.
Okay.
And it was great.
Yeah.
Right. So I could believe Springsteen on that.
Yeah. And then who opened the Sphere? The coolest new stadium in the world is U2. They're all in their 50s and maybe low 60s. It's just like, what's going on here, man?
Aren't you going to a concert or going to go to a concert?
So, country. I got Garth Brooks coming up, which
that's
super excited about. That's my, so from a country side, that he was at his height of popularity during my high school years. So this is a nostalgia one for me. I'm going to have a blast with that.
I'm not a Garth Brooks guy.
Oh,
no, that's exactly. Garth Brooks was fantastic. And he was kind of the earlier new country for his time.
I wonder if Garth is, if he would be even bigger now because he doesn't put his stuff out on streaming. I wonder if that's a problem, for younger generations of people are just listening to Garth Brooks and know a couple of the songs, but can't go through the library because he's not on Spotify and I don't think he's on Apple either. I think he's still got to buy his music. Yeah. So I wonder if, clearly he doesn't care. He probably wipes his tears with $100 bills, but, but yeah, I wonder, from a listening perspective, because, like you said, I think country, especially right now, is maybe taking the place of rock from some of the people that are, have brought it out. Yeah. And I wonder if the nostalgia part of that would have had Garth being even bigger at this point right now than he would if they could access his library easily.
Yeah. But it's also interesting though, for country, like you even have Beyonce going into country now, like the new album's all country.
Yeah.
So artists are just, and then Post Malone just did a new song with Morgan Wallen. So like all these guys are going into, which is, I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Like the mixture of hip hop, pop, and country is great.
Okay. To close out, I'm going to put you on the case to reestablishing rock music for those under 35 years old.
I can do that.
That is your job for next week. I want an update on that, and you can use whatever little buttons you want.
Find one rock band up and coming that people will be listening to in 10 years from now.
There is no, I mean, that's what I kind of used. It was like, who from post 2000 rock bands? And for those listening, if anybody has an idea, please just put it in the thing. But who's going to make the Hall of Fame that is considered a rock band? I don't know.
I mean, the only rock concert that I went to was Rage Against the Machine.
Oh,
which was pretty
but
solid.
those are my era.
Yeah, that's
I know, but that it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
But I could not tell you one rock band from today that's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Craziness. All right, let's close it out. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back again for next one. Oh, look at that! He found another button.
Found it.
Nice job, Tyler.
Well, that never ends. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks.